Empathy gap. This describes our inability to correctly identify how our current emotions impact our future behavior, because we sometimes forget how much our feelings can change what we do. How you feel right now isn't always how you'll feel later, and that can make you do things differently than you thought you would. When someone with an addiction isn't in withdrawal, they might underestimate how intense withdrawal will be later. This can make them think they'll handle it calmly, but the reality is often very different. Endowment effect. This is the tendency for us to assign more value to an object when we own it, compared to how we would value the same item if it belonged to someone else. One example is, if someone wanted to buy your object, you might not want to give it up, even if they offered you a lot of money. But buyers might not want to pay as much for your toy because they don't feel the same attachment to it and give it the same value as we do. Extrinsic incentive. Bias. This occurs when we think people do things mostly for rewards, and we don't give enough credit to how much they might actually enjoy or care about doing it. We might think others are motivated by rewards like money because it makes us feel better about ourselves. Citibank managers thought their employees cared more about money and other rewards, while the employees actually said they valued things like personal satisfaction and recognition more. False consensus effect. This occurs when you think everyone shares your opinions or does things the way you do, even if they don't. 3 factors are reason for this effect. Cognitive simplicity, which means we assume others think like us to make things easier. Social comparison, which means we mostly interact with people who share our views, so it feels like everyone agrees with us, and self-enhancement, which means we think others share our beliefs to feel better about ourselves. In the 2016 US election, experts thought Hillary Clinton would win because they assumed everyone agreed with them. Trump's win showed that assuming everyone thinks like you can lead to big surprises. Functional fixedness. This occurs when you can only think of one way to use something and don't see other possibilities. This can make solving problems harder. We get used to thinking of objects in just one way. As we get older and solve more problems, we start sticking to those old ideas and miss new ways to use things. PepsiCo had trouble finding a new way to cut sodium in their chips while keeping the salty taste. They couldn't solve it themselves, so they asked for ideas from different fields. A method from osteoporosis research helped them find a creative solution. Gambler's fallacy. This refers to our belief that the probability of a random event occurring in the future is influenced by the past history of that type of event occurring. We don't like randomness and try to find patterns where there are none. Lastly, we think that random events will balance out over time, so if something unusual happens, we expect it to correct itself eventually. In 1913, at a Monte Carlo casino, the roulette wheel kept landing on black. Gamblers, thinking red was overdue, kept betting against black, but the wheel continued to land on black. After 26 blacks in a row, it finally landed on red, showing the Monte Carlo fallacy, or gambler's fallacy, where people mistakenly believe past results affect future outcomes in random events. Google effect. This is tendency to forget information we can easily access online or on digital devices. General knowledge acquired through search engines as well as notes, contact numbers, or photographs saved on our computers and smartphones are included. This happens because we don't bother remembering things we can easily look up later, so we can focus on important things. Photographs serve as external memory storage, like the internet. While they can help us recall things, relying on them instead of just observing can make it harder to remember without the photo. Hard-easy effect. This means we are overconfident in our ability to complete difficult tasks and underconfident in our ability to be successful in easy tasks. We often get our confidence wrong about how hard or easy something is. For tough questions, we know less, so we don't consider evidence that might prove us wrong. For easy questions, we know more, so we might find reasons that make us doubt our answers. For example, if an entire exam is easy, people are underconfident in how well they did, whilst they are overconfident in how well they did in a hard test. Hot hand fallacy. This describes our tendency to believe that a successful streak is likely to lead to further success. We believe that small samples of data are representative of larger samples of data, when this really is not the case. We often look for patterns and sequences and find it hard to understand chance, causing us to make illogical predictions. For example, if a basketball player has made 3 consecutive shots, we may believe he has a greater chance of making the 4th than he actually does. Hyperbolic discounting. This means when we prefer to get something now, rather than waiting for something better later, even if the later reward is bigger. We might handle waiting for far-off rewards better than small delays for nearby rewards, because we find it hard to think about the future, and our sense of time can make waiting feel tougher. For example, we keep using carbon-heavy technologies because they seem cheap now, even though their long-term costs are high. This happens because we focus on immediate benefits and ignore future problems, which is a result of hyperbolic discounting. IKEA Effect. This describes how we put more value on things that we've built ourselves. We often think our creations are better because we want to feel that our hard work was worth it, and because we see our projects as a reflection of ourselves. One example is if the parents get their kids involved in cooking dinner. Research shows that kids who help prepare food tend to like vegetables more and eat more of them. Illusion of control. This occurs when we think we have more control over things than we actually do. This makes us believe we're more likely to succeed and create reasons why our actions led to certain results. We tend to think we're in control and are naturally optimistic. Our minds also like to link events together, even if they aren't really connected. This makes us overestimate our control and success. Both the close door buttons in elevators and the buttons at many crosswalks are placebos. They don't actually do anything. However, because they make people feel like they can influence things around them, they remain. Illusion of validity. This occurs when we think our judgments and predictions are more accurate than they really are. This happens because of other biases, such as the confirmation bias, which means favoring information that supports our views. Representativeness heuristic, which means to think things are more common because they seem familiar, and base rate fallacy, which is the ignoring of general statistics. Kahneman and his team used a test to predict soldiers' performance in officer training, but their predictions were wrong. Even so, they kept using the test and confidently relied on it. Illusory truth effect. This describes how, when we are repeatedly exposed to misinformation, we are more likely to believe that it's true. We believe information is true if it's easy to understand or seems familiar, even if it's not accurate. In the early months of the global coronavirus pandemic, US President Donald Trump frequently talked about the drug hydroxychloroquine as a potential cure for COVID-19. These claims were repeated so often that many people continue to believe them, even after clinical evidence has contradicted them. In-group bias. We favor people in our own group and treat those outside the group unfairly or badly. We tie our identity to the groups we belong to. By favoring our own group, we feel better about ourselves. Other reasons include competition for resources, causing conflicts, and expecting in-group members to be nice in return for our kindness. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.